Hello, Urvina Shah. Oh, I am so happy that we're finally having this conversation because I absolutely love what you do. So, Urvina and we met through a speaker training, and we immediately felt drawn to each other because we come from a same heart-centered place. And I'm so excited to introduce you to Athena. So welcome to my Soulpreneur Secrets podcast.
Thank you, Deborah. I'm really, really excited to be here today. It's so good to have this conversation. And yes, you're quite right. We did bond quite quickly. And yeah, we share a lot of commonality. So it's be great to explore that.
Okay, so Athena, tell us a little bit about your background, what you did in the past, where you've come from,
Okay, I used to be a therapeutic radiographer. So that's the dealing with the treatment of cancer. And I worked in the NHS for 27 years. And eventually, not about 3 years ago, I left the NHS completely. It was just getting too much by this point. And I was at that time in life where I felt I needed to take a step back. There was no other scope of practice or progression for me. So I needed to do something that felt right for me. And I was already coaching and mentoring in the NHS. So I decided to take that outside of that and create a business out of that. So what I do now is I help women who are stuck in their careers around the age of 35 to 55, and they really don't know what to do next, or are just they do their jobs just because they have to, but perhaps for the money, but it doesn't feel right, or they don't feel happy about it, but they're just plodding on, and just don't know what else to do. Lots of ideas, but don't know how to go about it. So those are the kind of women I now help. Yeah, and I'm also a mother of 3 children, older now, but and one of them has got special needs. So I have a lot of stuff I do around that as well, voluntarily in my community.
Fabulous. As you say, it because it's almost like a new problem, isn't it? Women in this age group who, because in our mother's generation, most women didn't even work. So,
Yeah.
once the kids left home, they had time to themselves, to join the WI or whatever. And now families are so dependent on women working. And of course, so many women have, like a lot of, they're very bright, they've got a lot of qualifications. And so they can, they've got high powered jobs. And if you're in a high powered job, working very long hours and it's not quite aligned with who you are, ooh, that's asking for burnout, isn't it?
Completely, yes, because you're just plodding on, and there's no real sense of joy that you get. No, you have to, but you don't, and then it affects your home life too, because you are tired all the time, you're overworked, you cannot spend decent time either at work, giving 100%, or at home. You actually miss out on so many opportunities then, both in life and work.
It literally becomes that life is about money.
Correct. Yeah. I'm just doing it because the money's good and it's convenient. And, somebody's got to, if I don't contribute then to work, to home, what would happen, and how do I provide? And, the thoughts that, as you said, the thoughts that used to go through a man's mind are also in a woman's mind now.
Right, yes, but she often has the added responsibility of a family to care for as well. And, like a friend of mine, I literally, it's the word grief. She is grieving for the time she is missing with her small children.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't be as bad if, as you said, she felt like the work she was doing during the day was really meaningful, that she was really valued and really appreciated, and that was in total alignment with, her values and what she wants to contribute to the world.
Oh, completely, because one affects the other without a doubt, vice versa. And yeah, it's so important to have that purpose, that spiritual purpose,
Mm.
aligned to your core values. Because if you're not aligned to your core values, what is really important to you, whether it's be in life and work, and some are overlap, then you're going to be unhappy. It is
Yeah,
going to,
yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah.
and when you continuously push against that over time, it rips you apart. It does cause burnout.
And I mean, you and I know we've been training with so many women who are working in the burnout field, working with women in corporate, particularly women in corporate, who are literally burning out and often in their 40s, and they've still got another 20 years to work.
That's it. And so if you've got that much time to devote to your career, you might as well make it meaningful.
Absolutely. So how do you go about helping women to do that? Where do you start?
I think one of the first places to start is that clarity. What do you want your career to look like? What
Mm.
to see in it, feel in it, hear in it, and those images or sounds or smells, bring up certain emotions around happiness or joy or contentment. And those are the feelings you're kind of looking for. If you're looking at your career and you don't feel any of this stuff, then that's one place to start, is what you want that career to look like. You might not necessarily know, because when women are stuck, sometimes they don't know what their career needs to look like. What is it they want? But you know what you enjoy doing, for example. Somebody might really enjoy doing admin or meeting, greeting people or helping people out, making a difference to them. Those are the sort of things, perhaps, that this career has to encompass, right? Exactly, you might not know what it looks like. And then we drill down into, okay, what are your skills and your strengths? How does that align? What is important to you, to your values? How do they all align to what this career needs to look like for you? And then do you have the confidence to pull it off? Let's work on that as well. So we work on that too. And the confidence piece kind of comes throughout this journey, because of how we've worked throughout till this year. You may have a lot of areas where you're self-sabotaging or don't think you're worth it or deserve it. All these things come into play. So we work through the confidence throughout as well. And finally, we set up some actions in how do you go forward with that, because there's no point thinking about all of this and then you have no actions. You've got to then commit those actions.
Absolutely. And
That just gets you unstuck, first of all, and gives you then gives you the confidence to take the next step, and so on.
and I know that that the women who are drawn to you, because I've met some of them, are very their spiritual life is really important to them. And obviously that's going to be very different for each individual. And this is one of the things that I think is becoming different now in the workplace, is because people are realizing they must have that alignment with. Could you say a little bit more about that? How do you describe that to people?
So when you have a spiritual purpose in your career, there's lots of elements that kind of come into play. And as you said, when women some applies to some men as well. When they get to a certain age, you've done the qualifications, you've done that first, second rung of the ladder, and you've done what you wanted to achieve in that excitement. Then you get to a point where, you have kids now, your priorities have changed, your career doesn't feel what it used to feel like before. So that something is different here. And it's because of that, what do you want to do? Most of the women who come to me want to make some sort of a difference, and they're not doing that anymore. So it's aligning what the beliefs are. It's about making those positive contributions and connections. It's about having that, becoming the best version of yourself. All of these things contribute towards that spiritual purpose and that passion that brings you joy. What is it? Because all of us have something in us that we want to do that makes things better. So what is that? And how can you incorporate that in your career? And if your career is also not that great, but you can still incorporate that into a side hustle or a contribution somewhere else, whether it be voluntary, so that it does then become aligned. You're not so focused on this career that you feel you have to be in, but you can't get out of. You can, but people may feel they can't. And therefore, there's another way you can bring your spiritual purpose to the forefront as well. Certainly aligning with beliefs and values is the most important.
Right.
Because if they don't match to the organization's values and their beliefs, then completely there's a mismatch and you're in the wrong place.
Yes, that I totally agree with you. I think values, to know, for me, I always say to people, just know your top 3 core values. And then anytime you're going to make a decision, is like, does this new job, does my current job align with my core values? Because if it doesn't, it isn't going to sit right.
Right. And it's much easier to make decisions when it aligns to your core values, because it doesn't even take a second and you already know this is right.
Yes.
You're not aligned, you don't make good decisions.
No. And in the work that you do, can you give us a few examples or little bits, or like somebody who came up with a core value, or someone who had a ha-ha moment? Have you got any little examples? Don't have to name anybody, but it would just be lovely to hear the sort of transformations that you've been seeing.
Yeah, actually, somebody who comes to mind is somebody called Preeti. Now, she was a corporate accountant. Well, she did consultation. She was a consultant in that field. And don't get me wrong, she really loved maths. And she did enjoy doing that. But what she didn't enjoy was, as a consultant going into these companies, she felt that she didn't even care. Nobody cared about her. She didn't care about them. And she had really lost this will to even help. And to the point it really affected her health. What she really wanted to do was make a difference. And she felt in that work, whilst yes, money, she's helping sort out money for business, she didn't feel it made a difference to a human. She couldn't see that. And she wanted to make a difference in that aspect. So actually, what she wanted to do is transition to become a health coach. She loved doing everything health related, and she knew that. And she trained as a PT and nutritionist and all of this, but she still couldn't make that transition because it was so overwhelming to start from scratch. When you've been working for 15, 20 years, you're established, to start all over again is quite scary again. So I worked with her on her values particularly, because that was important to her. And then within the first session, she was able to set up a step or two to move her in the direction of getting towards becoming a health coach. She had to still finish some elements of her qualifications. But over the year, in 2 months, she finished her qualifications and she quit a consultancy job. She's actually now helping others with their health goals and creating apps. And oh my God, she's quite successful at what she's doing now. And she's so happy. She's not making as much money though, but in fact, that didn't matter in the end because she's so much more happier.
That's a beautiful, beautiful story. I remember once when I was pregnant with my 3rd child, I had a friend who, she went back to work when the baby was 6 weeks old, and she said, well, she had 2 babies in the end. And she said, you know, we can't live the lifestyle that we're accustomed to unless I do this much work. And there's something about that when you earn less and you have more time, that you don't need as much money because you're not spending money in order to make you feel better
Yeah.
from all the work you're doing. It's like you can just go for a nice walk and gain as much, if not more, contentment than, you know, like having to rush around an expensive dress shop to get yourself some new clothes or go on an expensive holiday, which only
Yeah.
lasts 3 days because you haven't got any more time.
It's very true. And, you know, to be honest, money, we think about it too much, and it really is just, and I think that energy stops then. And at the end of the day, money is energy and it flows. So if you can think of it like that, then it comes. You contribute in a positive manner, in a spiritual manner, purposeful manner, and then the money does come. It might not be as much, but it's enough. I think, you know, that thing is, how much is ever enough?
Yeah, quite. I always say you spend as much as you've got, and usually a
That's
bit
it.
more.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Live by your means. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what about like women who actually want to transfer, you know, still into an employment, you know, not self-employment? Because I know for a lot of women, a lot of people, self-employment is just, you know, that's another big step, isn't it? You know, for some people, I just want a job. I just want to know where I'm going every day, and that every month that paycheck will arrive in my bank account, but I want what I'm doing to be meaningful.
You know, the pandemic really created that sense of what is
Mm.
important to me. What am I doing this for? Who am I doing this for? All of those questions arose, especially in women. A lot of women thought about this. And recently, last 6 months ago now, I had a lady who was working in the pharmaceutical industry and had been in that industry, GSK, for a very long time. But then get to a point when, you know, when you're in a place for a long time, sometimes you think, I'm never going to leave here. Nothing's ever going to happen until it does, right? She was made redundant. And then it's like, yikes. What do I do? I love working in this industry. I love working. I want to continue working. She wasn't short of money, but she enjoyed working because she felt what she did was making a difference. And so she wanted to contribute. But then to find another job that an employee would see actually how much experience I brought to the table was quite difficult, funnily enough, because she hadn't moved around. And this is the thing now. So a lot of people are moving around, so they're gathering a lot of tools in their toolkits. Nevertheless, for her, because of her values and her beliefs and what she wanted to contribute and her experience behind that, she was able to find another job in another pharmaceutical company that was even better because it provided a more well-being things. And so she was able to explore. Until then, she would never even have looked at, okay, what is this organization actually providing? And are they all talk, or are they walking the talk? And she was happy to find something that actually would help her with well-being as well, which is really important to her. So we looked at all of those things. What are important for you when you are looking for a job in an organization? All of these things, and are they matching? Yeah.
That's so interesting, and I'm really interested in what you said about that in a way it was almost a detriment to her that she'd been in one job for such a long time, because I have heard women say, well, I've only been there a year, I've only been there 2 years, I can't move yet. And I'm like, well, I think we're in an era now where people move all the time.
Correct.
So
Completely. Millennials, they just move all the time. I mean, in fact, to stay in a job for 5 years is too long now because of the pace, the technology, everything keeps changing everywhere. So even you may be in one company, but even in that company, things change. So even if you move within that company, it's okay.
Right.
That's okay because you're still gathering different tools and experiences and expertise. But to stay, that's the way it is. It may come around in full circle again at some point, but at the moment, that seems to be the trend that, more than 5 years feels too much.
Wow. I mean, I've heard this. I've been hearing this for a while, but it seems like the time span is getting less and less.
Yeah.
It used to be every 5 years, and now you're saying actually it's less than 5 years. And of course, if you're working with women age 35, they've still got another 30 years to work. So in theory, they could almost expect to change their job at least another 10 times.
Yeah. Yeah. Could be, yeah.
A lot. So really, if somebody is really keen to make sure they're always aligned with their work and they're always, in the best possible place, they could do with somebody like you all the time throughout the rest of their career.
Sounds good to me.
They just bob up every couple of years and say, okay, I've done 2 years at that now, and I've learned this and I've learned that, and I love this and I love that, but that bit didn't quite work for me. So I want to, I'm ready to my next one, and now it's got to fit these criteria and da da da
Yeah.
da.
Yeah, completely. I mean, that's not to say even that people who do stay in one organization would, it would be so detrimental, because I think it depends on what they go for next and what people are looking for. But that seems to be the trend at the moment from what I'm seeing, that people
And
tend to move around a lot more.
and you think that employers are looking for that too?
I do think so, because I feel that employers, when they see that, oh, this person has done this piece here and that piece there, they're flexible, they're adaptable, they can move from one place and pick up things very quickly, and can, and the age we live in, where people want things very quickly, they almost
Yeah.
want you to hit the ground running in some places, right?
Yeah.
I think new grads in a different position, because companies don't want to pay as well, so they're happy to have new grads as well. But then they'll find new grads will move on more quickly. So in
Right.
some respects, getting somebody with a bit more experience is more valuable.
Because I think, when I speak to some people, no, I don't speak to many women in this situation, but some,
Yeah.
and they'll say, well, I can't move on now. I've only been here a year or 2 years or whatever. They'll think that I wasn't good enough, or that they'll think I'm unreliable, or, I'm only going to stay for a year or two. What's the point in having her? What's the point in training her up? She's not going to stay. But that's not what they're thinking now.
No, it's not. But I mean, you do have to be ready to move as well. You don't want to move prematurely either. If you're not
No.
ready to go on to the next one, don't. But yes, do look around. Even if you just look around, you don't necessarily have to make the move. Things like updating your LinkedIn, for example, keep that updated, because people often get headhunted too. You might not be ready. You might not think, oh, I'm not going to move just yet. And then you get headhunted. Actually, that happened to my son recently. He was not planning on necessarily moving from his current position. He's not only, he'd been there a year only. He was happy there. But then he got headhunted for a senior role. And he thought, okay, you know what? I'll just see what it is about, whatever. And they felt he was ready. He didn't
Yeah.
necessarily at the point in time, but they felt he was. And he did for it.
So you would highly recommend that women make sure they keep their LinkedIn profiles up to date and totally representing their values, their
Yes.
all that.
Yes. Yes. LinkedIn is a good place for that. And I think, yeah, it's important. And a lot of women who are working don't look at their LinkedIn. They don't do anything with it.
No.
Even if you've been working in a career for a long time, keep your LinkedIn updated. I think it's really key at the moment. And because people are moving around a lot, and recruiters look at LinkedIn, they do look at it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not even looking for a job, but I know that people are looking at my LinkedIn.
Correct. Yes, exactly. Because you get that notification, don't you, that people are viewing.
Yes,
Yes.
yes,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah. And you know, you've only got to say little bits, you know, like once a week, just put a little post in about what you're doing at work or something, you know,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah.
just keeps it fresh, doesn't it? It just keeps it alive
Yeah.
and keeps
Absolutely.
bringing it to people, to the forefront of employers' in attention.
Yes. Yeah.
That
But
that
always
that.
make sure your values are in there. What is in what is it?
Mm.
What do things, it could be the stuff you do outside of work too, that aligns to the work. Um,
Yes, yes,
so
of course, yes.
worth
And you
doing.
know, one thing I think that women in particular really struggle with, and that, as you said, is about confidence. And you know, we tend to put ourselves down, we might downplay our skills, we very rarely exaggerate them, which is apparently what a lot of men do. You know, they will say, yeah, of course I can do this job. And women are going, oh, I'm not quite sure. Do you know one thing I just ah, I've been playing a bit with Chat GTP.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So you put in your details, things you've done, what you're interested in, or whatever, and you ask it to summarize it all, you know, for a reference or whatever. Now, it's not that I would use it, but I have been astonished at how ChatGTP will big me up.
Yeah, I would say use it. You've got the tools there. People, even for your LinkedIn profiles or you want to write, use it. It's there
Yeah,
to help you if you get stuck. And this is the thing, what I find as well is when I get a bit of a block about a post or something, and I know what I want to say, don't know how to quite articulate it. I'll put it into ChatGPT, and it'll give me something. It just gives me that moment, that kind of light bulb moment. Think, okay, now I know what to say. So yeah,
yeah.
I'm absolutely use
And
it. Absolutely, AI is wonderful for that.
it, because it has no judgment. It doesn't say, well, you're not that good at that, are you? It just goes, hey, you got this? Fantastic. Let's push
Yes,
that. And then,
yes,
oh, you're brilliant at this. And you're
yes,
and it just, and
yes,
you're like, whoa, is that really me?
yes, absolutely.
And it was a revelation to me. And since then, I've been much better at saying, yeah, this is who I am. This is what I do. This is
Yes,
what I'm good at.
I
Um,
completely relate to that, Deborah, because I feel as well it is really helpful in kind of sometimes you're not sure and you put something in there, you whatever's in your mind, and it brings up something. You think, okay, that's the light bulb moment there. Yeah, absolutely. I think yeah, if women are struggling in terms of the LinkedIn profiles or what to say about it, use it.
Fabulous. Well, that in a way that's quite a controversial area for a lot of
It
people.
is.
Um,
It is. It
and
is.
I know
I,
that it
I'm
feels
not, I'm not digitally or, too au fait with all of these things, but AI, this ChatGPT is something that I'm finding is really helpful for me anyway, because when I want to, put something down in writing, for example, and I don't know quite how to word it, it's very useful.
really, I must admit, I haven't used it much myself, but the little bits I've used it for, I've gone, wow, wow, I would never have come up with that myself.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
absolutely.
okay, yeah, yeah. So yes, and it's really very easy to use, isn't it?
It is. And you just use the
Give it,
free version. Yeah.
add in,
The free
add,
version is pretty good.
yeah. As long as you give it all the information it needs and you
Yes.
tell it what style you want it to write it in,
Yes.
then yeah, it's pretty easy. And
Uh,
do you find yourself always saying please and thank you?
yeah, yeah. And so one day I started writing, and I thought, oh, this is a robot I'm talking to. I don't need to. Yeah,
Why do I say thank you to the cash machine when it gives me my
yeah.
cash?
Oh, indeed. Too funny.
Oh, that's been absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much, Urvina. That yeah, really powerful. My gut says this is so important. I know so many women who are in, corporate type fields who are just pushing,
Yes, yeah.
because they feel they have to.
And a lot
And
of women, even if, you know what, one of the things that I would say is, especially if you are in a position of, well, I've got to do this because I've got to contribute towards the family, etc. Think about a side hustle as well,
think about what,
because
sorry.
a side hustle
Okay.
about with your, so think about your passions and your talents and what can you contribute positively in another way, and start doing that in small
Mhm.
pieces, so it doesn't you're not so then focused on the negativity of where you're at
Mm.
in your career, and then you can at some point perhaps move away if you can't do it straight away.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. That's beautiful. And I know that you do a lot of voluntary work, don't you? You have a whole organization um,
Yes,
where you help parents with
yes.
young people like your own who has, some learning challenges, which means
Yes.
it's not as straightforward for them.
Yeah, no, no, no. I love it. I love what it does for families, for those young adults and the parents, especially, Yes, I absolutely love it. It gives me such a sense of joy and fulfillment.
Awesome, awesome. Oh, it's been so lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank
And how can people get in contact with you if they would like to reach out to you?
I am on LinkedIn, Urvina Shah on LinkedIn. My company is You Can Coaching, which is UKAN. I'm Facebook and LinkedIn, probably the best way, or email, which is hello@UKAN, coaching.co.uk.
Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you so much, Avina.
Thanks, Deborah.
See you soon.
Bye.